Hello and welcome to this Unreal City Building tutorial where in this episode I'm going to be creating some randomly generated citizens. So you can see I've got a nice line of citizens here, and when I hit play they kind of all go, and you can see they're all different colours, and I've represented different genders by the colours on their actual bodies. So you can see I've got blue for male and yellow for female. So we've just got a bunch of randomly generated citizens here, and that's going to be the focus of today's episode. This is actually a two-parter, so these citizens do actually birth children and then die eventually, but I tried to do this all in one video, and the video ended up lasting more than 2 hours from recording time, so I didn't want to make you sit through a really long video, so I've decided to split them up. And hopefully they're a bit more watchable that way. So if you enjoyed the series, subscribe, like the video, drop any comments below if you have any problems or if you want to see me do anything in particular in the future. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so just to show you something that I did actually do off camera, just to quickly make things a bit easier for the video, I've created a bunch of tables that have a bunch of random first names in for men, random first names in for women, and a bunch of random last names as well that I'll make use of in the actual citizen itself. And I've also in materials made just 3 skin colours so that I can have a bit of racial variety in the city as well. Okay, so the first thing I am going to create, I'm going to create a new blueprint class. It's going to be of type actor. This is going to be our city builder citizen. Very exciting. Open up this. And right, so I'm actually just going to add in a sphere. This will be the head. Lock the scale and bring it down 0.5, let's say. Bring that up. It's not going to be very to scale, I'm not going to lie. They'll need adjusting when we make it a little bit more realistic once all our buildings and stuff are in and we can get the right scale size. I'm also going to add in a cube. Can I add a cube in yet? Again, bring that down to a smaller size. I think I've gone too far there. And I'm actually going to just unlock the scale again. I'm going to scale it up in the Z by 3. Does that look okay? Yeah, I think that looks good. Right, the first thing I'm going to do in this, actually let's just name these, we'll name that the body and we'll name that the head, just so we kind of know what those are. And now let's get into some of the logic we want to do. So if we go to the event graph, I'm actually going to create a function. I'm going to call this generate citizen. And in this function, I'm going to do some random logic so that the citizens that I'm making are kind of randomly generated, so that there's a good bit of variety and stuff in there. So that'll be good. I want to also add in a bunch of variables that are going to store all the random things we need to make. So I have a nice big list next to me here of things I want to make for the citizen, variables I want to add. So the first thing I'm going to start with is going to be the name. Just going to be a type string. That's fairly self-explanatory. I'm going to also have age in here, so that'll be an integer. I'm actually going to make sure that this is always clamped between 0 and 100. I don't want my citizens to ever be younger than 0 or older than 100 really, so that's going to be a clamp for that. I'm going to create, what else do we need? Wealth, so the current wealth of the citizen, how much money they have. And then actually some of the other things I want to make, I'm actually going to make custom enums for them. So if I go back to my citizens, I'll create a new folder and I'll just call this enum types. And let's create some new enumerations. I believe is that in miscellaneous? No, that'll be in blueprints, enumeration. So this first one I'm going to call health status. So based on certain factors of the world, I want my citizens to be healthy, not unhealthy, sick, dying, kind of. So the first one we're just going to have is normal. Oh, that's the enum description. Describes the current health of the citizen. Let's create a new enumeration. This one will be normal, so the normal health state. And the second one will be sick. This person isn't very well. The last one will be dying, so severely ill or severely sick. And we can save that. We'll go more in depth on this in the future. I have it all in my brain of how I want the health system to work, but that is a separate video. We won't be going too much into that. We'll probably be doing the life cycle in this video, so like being born and dying, but that'll be as far as we go into that. So that's cool, we've got that now, and I want to create a new one. This one is going to be relationship status, and so our citizens can be either single, they can be partnered, or they can be widowed, are the three that I've kind of come up with. So just adding a quick description. The citizen. So single people who will be looking for partners, people who are partnered, spell that wrong, and then people who are widowed. So people who are technically single but will not be looking for a new partner necessarily because they've been widowed. And I know that's not real world, but just for the case of our simulation, that's what I'm going to do. That's good. And then last thing I did feel like I wanted to add in, I was going to do sexual orientation. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into this. It's just going to be hetero. How do you spell hetero? Heterosexual, homosexual, and bisexual. Like that. All these are going to do is just say who can be partnered with who. It's not going to have any other gameplay mechanics than that, really. I'm still going to run all the generating children the same way, regardless of sexual orientation. So, we'll just say that they're being adopted, or, if it's two females, they'll do the, insemination or whatever it's called. We won't go too deep into that. What else? Maybe actually just an enum, just for the sex of the citizen. So I'm using sex over gender. I'm not really going to do gender roles, so it will just be male or female. Like that. Okay, and then we go back to the citizen, and then let's add in all these new ones. So sex, that will be the sex type. Sexual orientation, that will be sexual orientation. The relationship status. You get the gist of this. Feel free to skip ahead if you're going faster than I am. And then the last one we added was education level? No, we forgot to add education level in actually, didn't we? Health status was the last one that I did add, but yes, I do need to actually add in education as well. So let's add in another enumeration. Education level, we'll call that. And we'll have, you can either have a basic education, an advanced education, or higher education. So basic will be you went through school until you got kicked out. Advanced will be you went to college level or an apprenticeship, and then high was you go to university. If you're American or not from the UK, sorry, not just American. If you're not from the UK watching this, then our system works that you can leave education after high school, which would be basic. But if you stay in education, you can stay until you're 18, which would be sixth form college, which would be advanced, or you could do apprenticeships and stuff like that. And then higher education is higher. It is university level. So let's actually just make sure we add in education status to our symbol, to our citizen as well. Education level. Okay, I think so. We've got name, we've got age, we've got wealth, we've got sex, we've got sexual orientation, relationship status, health status, education status. Also, actually, want to add in some other variables like. So I want to have a reference to a partner if there is one. So that will be a reference to a type citizen. So that's an object reference there. By default, it'll be empty. I'm gonna have a similar one that will be for children. Children of citizen. Apparently, I can't use children because it's used somewhere else. So that must be part of the base actor class. So this is going to be of type citizen, but we're going to make this an array rather than just a singular. And then by default, it's got no array elements. That's fine. But you can have multiple children. For the case of our game, you're not going to be able to have multiple partners. I want to put in a place of work reference too. This will just be, I'm just going to do this as an actor reference for now. This will basically point to the building that the citizen works at, or the school maybe, if they're in education. We'll get to that in later episodes. And then let's just do occupation title. So we have a string that we can just display when they're actually in a job. But again, that won't necessarily be part of this this episode. This is going to be a long episode anyway, so let's not overcomplicate things. Okay, so actually, before I actually get into the function, I'm just going to set up some defaults. So, for instance, wealth. I'm going to start every citizen off with the same amount of wealth, of just 1,000. Sexual orientation, that's going to be generated in the function. Relationship status, that needs to be default to single, so that's correct. Health status, you should start the world at normal, that's good. Education, we'll start at basic. Okay, cool. Alright then, so what I want to do first then is, actually I'm just going to randomly assign a skin color to the head. So let's do a random integer. The max the integer will be 2. So from the return value, can I do a switch on an int? Yeah. So I'll add 0, 1, and 2. I think this function is probably going to get quite messy quite quickly, so that might get awkward. But basically, just the head. Set material, and this one. So if it's 0, we'll just say it's the color white. Plug 0 in. Do another set material. Here, so if it's 1, the material will be skin color brown, and then if it's 2, set material to be skin color black. I got the skin colors from Google, basically. I just googled a skin color graph thing. and then I just copied and pasted the RGB values. So I've not really done anything overly fancy with that. So that's our skin color assigning. And then next we want to do another random, and this is just going to be our sex random. So random bool branch. So we'll just drag all these nodes. In fact, if we make a little thing there, we can drag all these into here just to neaten things up. So if the bool is true, then if the bool is true, then we'll switch from the default sex to not. So that's female. So we'll set that to female. Did that wrong. And then what I might actually do is, just so that there's a bit of representation, let's well, we've got this pathway material. In fact, let's just quickly make 2 new materials. So I've just quickly created 2 new materials, female clothing material and a male clothing material. So if I go back to my citizen in the generate, so if I'll first of all actually just by default set it to the male one, because we know that by default of that enum it's going to be male. And then we go back to the generate. If we do set the sex to female, then we should also set the material of this like that, and then we will just do our female one, which is more of a yellow color. And then this is just for visual representation, so I can tell the difference while I'm testing. I've mentioned it before, I'm definitely not an artist, so all of this stuff I'm not very good at. And then let's just comment that and say random sex, like so. And then after that, we want to randomly assign a name. So what I've done, I think I showed earlier, is in citizens randomly generated names, I've made these 3 tables. Yeah, I think I went over this at the start of the video. So what I basically need to do is in here, once we go into the next step, I need to get a reference to these tables that I've made. So I might need to actually add in some data tables here. So if I add in a data table, can you just have it as, yes, there we go. Okay, so these are just local variables that I'll have, and this will be first names table male. We'll have another one just in local variables. This will be the female one. First names female. And then another one will be last names, which I've already created. And that will just be the last names. Okay. So based on whether this is female or not, so let's actually get our sex and do another switch. Plug that in, and then just so we don't forget, drag the false into that as well. We want all code paths to carry on going through. So what I need to do to get a random one out is if you pull the data table out, what I've actually done, I did this in a really small video I released last week that I'll put a little card link to at the top. Basically, these tables, I've created this name structure that is just a string that says name in it, and I've made some data tables off that. So you can see if I go into here, there's a row called name, and that is a property. So what I need to do in my citizen class is when I pull this out, I can say get data table column as a string. And that can just be, and the property type is name, because that's what I called it. And this gets me out this array of strings. So if I get the length of that, I can now do a random integer in range, and the 0 is going to be the min, and then the max is going to be what I plug into that. Basically, all I need to do with this is, based on the return value, I could just do a get. So I could just do a get a copy from the return value like that. And this will get me a random first name from the mail table. It's probably going to be better that I put this in its own function, and then just pass in a specific data table. So if I delete that, if I highlight all of this, I can right click and I can say collapse the function. This function, you can see it has all that logic in. If I just move this down, we're going to add in a data table as an input. Object reference there. Just call that in data table. The function, let's call the function get random name. Plug that into there, and then all we want to do is we need an output, which will just be a string, and that will be returned name. Simply plug that into there, plug that in, and that should be all we need to do. So that's a nice little helper function that we've got. Let's go back to the generated citizen. So on type mail, we'll do that, and the in data asset is, we don't actually need the local variables. We can just pass the data table directly. So let's just do that. So that's the first, that's in there. Do another one. Get random name there, and that will be the female one. And what we want to do is, after we've done both of these, we also want to call get random name on the last names, and we want to generate our name based on both of these, right? So let's plug both of these in. In fact, we might want to do this separately. So the return name and the return name. So we're going to set our name. So to get these two names in one, what we need to do is just pull this out and call append like that. And actually, I'm just going to append a space first, so that there's a gap between the first name and the second name. And then from the return value, we're going to do another append, and that will be the random surname. And then from this return value, plug that in, and there we go. Just make sure you do this on the female side as well. Plug that in. Still using last names, that's fine. Append a space. Append the last name that we get into here. And then set our name based on that. Cool. And then that is the name generation. So highlight all that. Name generation. All right, so I guess sexual orientation is another thing we want to kind of assign. And the way I want to do this is kind of close to real life. So I'm going to do random integer in range. And this is going to be from 0 to 100. Like so. Basically, I'm going to say, the stats that I'm going to do are going to be wrong. But basically, I think it's about 90% of people are heterosexual, and then it's about 7% homosexual, 3% bisexual. That's what I'm going to go for mine. That is probably not true to real world, but I think those figures are fairly accurate. Because obviously there's a really wide range. So I'm generalizing a little bit, but I did want to make it part of my game. So I'm going to make a random integer between 0 and 100, so that can give us a percentage. And then I'm going to say this is less than or equal to 90. And then pull a branch off that. I have to actually be careful with this because I don't want this random thing to happen multiple times. Because every time I plug this condition in, it's going to potentially run this random integer again. So I can get rid of these local variables I made earlier actually. I'm just going to create a type of integer, and it's just going to be the sexual orientation rand. And then just to make sure that we never actually run this logic multiple times, I'm just going to set this like that. Make sure you plug both these in so we're still continuing the flow. Okay, so now I can do the less than. So if this random integer is less than 90, then I'm going to just keep it as heterosexual, which is the default. If this comes back false, then I'm going to do another. So if this is less than 97, then they're going to be homosexual. So that needs to be the false into there, because the true is just going to keep the default. And then based on these, let's do two sets. So if it's less than 97, then there will be homosexual, and if it is greater than 97, so the lowest possible chance, then there'll be bisexual. And then we just need to make sure, let's cover all that. Sexual orientation. Don't need any visual representations for this really, so I'm not going to bother with that. And then the last thing I want to kind of do, just as a debug before we do all our education stuff, is I'm going to do a random education status. So another random integer. Max being 2. Oh no, you want to make the max 3, sorry, because the random number is between 0 and whatever the maximum you put in minus 1. Do a switch statement from this. Just pull this out, and then again plug all this stuff in early doors so we don't forget to do it. And then 0, 1, 2. So 0 is basic. 1 can be advanced, and 2 can be higher education, like that. And then I think that's all I need to do for now. I'm gonna do work stuff another time. Partners and children happen while we're running. I think that's everything. Let me just add a last comment to say random education. Obviously this will change in the future, but we'll leave it at that. Right, so that's generated. Another thing I want to do as well, kind of separately to this, is I'm going to create a separate function called generate random age. So by default, the age is just going to be 0. So when a new citizen is created, then they just start from 0 because they've just been born. But I'm going to make it so that it is possible to have a random age. So this will be a function you can call from elsewhere in the program to actually say, hey, we need to generate a random age. So we're just going to set this age, and this is just going to be directly from an integer. And we'll say the max is actually 80. If we're generating a random age, we don't want people who are going to die straight away. So actually, let's set that even lower to 60. Like that. Yeah, and then what I'll do is I'm going to add a variable, and this will be called start at random age. I'm going to expose it. And then the random start is going to be a boolean. Compile it. So by default it's false. That's good. Go back to the event graph. In the begin play, generate our citizen. That was the major function that we made. So let's call that one first. Then afterwards, we're going to get this. We're going to do a branch. And if we should start at a random age, then we will generate random age. Okay, so that's a good base for a citizen, I think. Let's actually see what happens if we drop a few of these into world. If I hit play, you can see I've actually randomly spawned a female and a male. Don't have any other information about them, but that's good. You know, there's a bit of variety there already. You can see that the randomness is certainly working. If I just drag a bunch more in, then yeah, we've got quite a good spread there. We've definitely got different variety. I do actually wonder if it just changes every time. I think it should. Yeah, look at that. Random. Cool, so yeah, we are getting random bunch of males and females and races. That's really cool. Okay, so I'm going to end the video there. As I said at the beginning, this is kind of a two-parter. One quick thing I did realise that I messed up. If you go into the citizen again, I'll actually stop running. Where we do the generate, I actually messed up the race, the random skiller. Yes, this one, you just need to change this max value to 3 because it knocks one off, so make sure you do that. And then when you hit play, you'll see the 3 different skin types. Yes, in the next episode we'll do death and we'll do spawning children and the cycle of life. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully it didn't drag too much. Let me know your feedback in the comments. Subscribe if you enjoyed the series, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.